A few months ago, I opened a business email, which sounds way more professional than it really is, where people could send me inquiries about my channel. A small dream of mine has always been to be one of those YouTubers or streamers that gets exclusive access to brand new video games to make videos on, but that always felt like such a pipe dream. Then, I actually started to see some success in the videos I've made, and for the first time ever, I was sent free video games from my viewers. And not games from like Activision or Nintendo, but games from indie game developers, real people. This video is not sponsored. The first game I've been sent, I'm actually very excited for. Astro Fighters 2 is a bullet hell vertical scroller similar to 1942, but set in a sci-fi space setting. This game was made by a single developer based in the UK named Paul Connor, and what really stood out to me about this one was, for one, it looks pretty legit. Like, this looks like a pretty solid game to be sending someone of my level. Not only that, but the developer didn't ask me to make a video or sponsor a video about it in any way. He simply asked for my input so he could improve. And that's what this video is. This video is mostly for Paul Connor so he can improve, but I also want to put you guys onto his game because it's actually pretty fun. It has a lot of really fun and unique mechanics, but of course, like all projects, there are some rough edges as well. In this game, you can choose between 3 different ships. I just chose this Centaurus one because it has bigger bullets, and I need all the handicaps I can get going into this game because I've never really beaten a bullet hell game beyond Enter the Gungeon. But before selecting a ship, you are hit with this control screen, which, to be honest, is kind of jarring. You can only play this game on controller, but I did see Astro Fighters 1 got keyboard support, so I think Astro Fighters 2 will have it soon too. With that said though, I think the controls are very simple and intuitive on controller, and I never forgot what they did. In my opinion, these could have been showed off in a short tutorial level instead, or just have a picture of the controller layout. Okay, my bad. As I was looking through the footage, I did see that in the very beginning of the game, when you launch it, it shows you a very simplified control scheme. So, my bad, it does actually have that. I just didn't really feel like reading too much of this stuff because most of it is stuff you can figure out just by playing the game, which I did. I would also maybe consider using a different font because this one is a bit hard on the eyes. Also, I appreciate that the slow time and ship break buttons, which I'm just now realizing there's a slow time button, so maybe I should have read, are just the same image of the Xbox controller copy pasted underneath and sized up a little to mimic there being left and right triggers, which I just thought was a fun choice. It's smart. But here's where I will give Paul all of the credit. He does what I think is the best way to tackle game development, and that is to highly prioritize gameplay and mechanics, and then work on the rest like menus, UI, sound, and whatever else doesn't actually affect button inputs. So let's go over the basic mechanics of your ship because this is actually where it gets really interesting. You shoot with A, you level up with B, and you can change fire directions with the right bumper. These are the most important because this entire game has a very unique system in its leveling, which I'll get to in a moment. But the basics are, to level up, you hit a certain number of points, fill the bar, press the button, and you're leveled up. You get more firepower and bigger bullets, and maybe even more fire rate, I think. The fire direction button will change your ship from front face shooting to back face shooting, which makes things really interesting. There's not really any incentive to stay on one side of the screen, which I know is a problem in other bullet hell games, and the enemies also spawn from all directions, including from underneath you. But let's get to the real kicker. If you lose a life, you go down a full level, meaning you could potentially be level 1 fighting the final boss if you're not careful. I think this is a small piece of the DNA of this game that breaks the mold. Traditionally in games, when you level up, that is it. You are just now the next level. But this whole game's moment to moment is based around this leveling system. Now, although it's very simple now, let me introduce 2 more controls to you. The bomb is Y and the spread is X. A bomb is a screen-wide clear of all projectiles except one and destroys all enemies besides bosses. The spread is a shotgun-like barrage of high fire rate lasers that destroy all projectiles except one in its cone, and it does a lot of damage to enemies. Well, that's great. How often can I use them? Like, as often as you want. You can literally use these all the time, one after another. But in order to use them, you have to use some of the XP that is in your bar currently. Now, this to me is what makes the game really interesting. You have to manage your XP bar constantly and decide if you want to dodge a bunch of bullets to squeeze out one more level or to stay alive and clear the screen. The same rotation goes for fighting the bosses, because where you would normally only get XP for killing trash mobs, when fighting a boss you actually get XP when you get near misses with the enemy bullets. And when you decide to get to the next level, your XP bar goes all the way back to 0. So you can't use abilities anymore until you kill mobs or deal damage to the boss. In my opinion, this creates a really fun gameplay loop, and I was really impressed with this idea. The constant teetering on leveling, dying, using bombs, using spread, dying again, leveling again. It just keeps you engaged beyond focusing on only dodging and shooting. Now, if you play your cards right, you can actually really abuse these. And it really does feel like you're OP when you do. I mean, at any given level, I'm using bombs dozens of times during the non-boss phases because there's a ton of enemies on screen. And if I use my bomb, I'll gain an XP profit, meaning by using the bombs a lot, I'm still gaining XP, albeit slower than if I didn't use that. Same goes for the boss fights. I'll end up using spread a ton if it's viable for that boss. But I think Paul does a good job at boss design so that you're not totally encouraged to do it all the time. I think this is all intentional though. I think you're supposed to feel OP and use these abilities to your advantage. I do think though, there should be some balancing and maybe even short cooldowns on some of these. But this game is pretty hard without them. If you tried to play this game without using bombs or spread, this game might be one of the hardest I've played in the genre. I tried not using anything for a number of times during boss fights, and I just could not catch a break. I thought maybe I was using them too much as a crutch, but every time I decided not to, I feel like I would reach a point where it was actually impossible to dodge all the projectiles on screen. I will also say enemy projectiles are very fast, giving you a small window to dodge. I don't mind if you have either a lot of projectiles but they're slow, or fast projectiles but they're less. However, this game has both. Granted, I didn't know you could slow time, so maybe I'm missing out. But when you use these abilities, the game does open up a bit, and I think it's intentional. Now, I mentioned there is one projectile that bomb and spread doesn't work against, and that is the blue projectiles. I think this is a fantastic addition, and it keeps the gameplay even more interesting. Bosses shoot them a lot less than regular projectiles, but if you're spamming spread on a boss, you really have to watch out for the blue projectiles on top of whatever other mechanics the boss is throwing at you. And the glazing continues. The boss mechanics are surprisingly very fun and unique. You have this dude that's a giant worm, which maybe isn't so much unique, but it is in this game because it discourages spamming spread and favors maybe using a bomb to clear the screen. This one has a shield in its front, so you have to go behind it constantly to deal real damage, but he shoots 3 massive lasers occasionally and can swap the side that it's on. If you're caught in front of his shield when he does this, you're just dead. And this dude has bombs everywhere on screen slowly moving that are easy to dodge, but having normal projectiles shooting you at the same time is a real task even with spread spam. After a certain amount of levels in the game, boss phases become just throwing out previous bosses at you back to back, or having 2 of the same previous boss at the same time. I think this is okay, but I do think these should change their mechanics slightly to keep things interesting and fair. Now, there could definitely be a mega strong final boss, but I wasn't able to beat the game, so please take that with a grain of salt. I also looked on the Steam page and saw a couple bosses I never even fought, so I definitely missed out on some content. Also, the trash mobs are pretty unique, even though they get melted the second they step on my screen, but a general nice touch is that whenever you level up, their color also changes with you. I don't know, this doesn't do anything gameplay wise, but it's cool. When I go purple, they go purple, and then when I go red, they go red. And lastly, in the controls, can you believe we're still talking about controls? I know, I'm gonna speed things up here real soon. We have the special items. This is simple. They're just random drops from enemies that have fun little power-ups like reflect bullets, an extra AI ship to help you kill enemies, a little orb that auto targets enemies, and more. These are just fun and add an extra layer of skill needed to learn these to use them the best you can. Now here's my favorite feature of this game besides the mechanics. I don't know if these levels are infinite or finite, but it doesn't matter to me. The real reward in all of this is the leaderboard. I love in-game leaderboards. Even if nobody cares about what your rank is, it's always fun to climb the ladder and feel like you have a shot at being number 1. Look, I got number 2 in this gauntlet mode that has a total of 2 players. 2 players have played it so far, but I mean it's in a closed beta state, but that just means I'm the second best in the world for this game mode on this indie game, so beat that. Jokes aside, the leaderboard is great, but what's even better is you can see your live position on the leaderboard in game, and it'll tell you how many points you need to get to beat the next person. I just love this feature and it keeps me wanting to play. Now, I mentioned that the developer really focused on the mechanics first and everything else later. Well, the rough edges of this game are in the everything else later part. So here's a lightning round of my critiques that have not been mentioned yet. In the mechanics section, I think the ship's acceleration is too fast. It's hard to maintain control of the ship if you're not an expert with a controller. You go from completely still to max velocity instantly, not that that's a problem per se, but the max velocity feels very high. Another critique is the health system. It's very unclear how much damage an enemy can do, or how much health you have for that matter. You can take multiple hits before losing life, but I can't tell if I ever regen HP or if I reset that when I level up. I mean, I should be dodging everything, I suppose, but this is something to consider. In the visuals department, although it's pretty easy to see in game, I think there should be a better visual indicator on which way your ship is facing. There is UI that tells you, and if you just shoot, you can see where, so it's not that serious, but a nice touch would be to have the ship sprite change in some way to indicate that. In the same coin, it is explained in the controls section, but the visual indicator of your hitbox may be confusing even if you know what you're looking for. It says that the hitbox of your ship is actually a small orb on the top of your ship, which confused me because it's actually kind of in the middle, which is technically the top of the ship, but I would appreciate a tutorial or a separate page in the controls to point this out specifically, because I did misinterpret it as an invisible one in front of my ship, not in the middle / on top of it. The backgrounds are decent. I appreciate the 1942 feel, and there are 3D aspects, but eventually I think having some clarity as to why we're on this planet, in the forest, or in space, or on this rocky planet could be nice. The story elements are honestly undercooked and are just kind of text on screen before you start the game. You don't really need an extravagant AAA God of War-like story, but motivation is key for player retention. The leaderboard does a good job of that for me, but for other people, I know they want an obtainable goal or like the looming presence of a mega strong boss. In the sound design department, there is one glaring issue, and that is the sound it makes when you pick up XP tokens. Oh my god, it's so loud. If there's multiple XP tokens on the floor and you pick them up all at the same time, it makes a very jarringly loud sound because the sound it just overlaps over itself. This could be potentially fixed with scaling down the sound exponentially per XP picked up within a few seconds of each other, but I know coding and I know this is much easier said than done. So a temporary fix could be just to lower that sound effect volume. But I will give Paul a lot of credit. This is a really unique bullet hell game, and I think it has potential if it gets polished on all corners of development. I had a lot of fun playing this game on and off recordings. Some other small things that I haven't mentioned yet is you do get extra lives every 80,000 points. There's 2 difficulties, easy and normal, but they don't change all that much. And there's apparently a co-op mode, but I haven't tried it yet. There's also a gauntlet mode, which was actually a lot of fun. It has like a separate leaderboard too. This unlocks after a certain level in the campaign, but it's a mode where you get like 7 minutes to score as many points as possible, and it's fun. After playing this game for a while, I could really feel myself getting the hang of it, and actually getting into a real flow state a couple of times playing it. I would just love to see this game succeed and get continuous updates. I give this game a 6 out of 10 shirts. That is above average, by the way. A 5 out of 10 is average on my scale. This game gets a 6 because its mechanics are super solid, which is what makes a game a game. The other 4 missing points belong to the polish of the game. The sounds, UI, story, visuals, the difficulty, and content. There is plenty to work on, but I think this game has its fundamentals pretty solid. I would mostly work on the enemy's bullet speed as well as the player's ship speeds. My reviews are not gospel. You do not have to take what I'm saying. This is just how I feel. I think maybe if I use the slow more often, maybe it plays more naturally, but generally it's pretty hard without it. I would honestly price this game at $5. I know that might seem low as a developer when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into a game, but when your game is $5, it's very accessible and more people are willing to give it a try than if it was $1 more. Also, you have the potential to be seen in the games under $5 tab on Steam, which could potentially outweigh being $2 to $3 more. $5 is just an easy price to give an unknown game a shot. This game is not published yet, but Astro Fighters 1 is currently out on Steam. The link to Astro Fighters 2 will be in the description, and shout out to Paul Connor for being the first guy ever to give me a free game to review. This opportunity means a lot, and the best way I know to give back is to review things critically and unbiased. The indie game scene is only getting more and more popular by the day, especially with some of the AAA flops we've been seeing lately. So that's why I wanted to make this video, not only for the selfish reason of getting free games, it's mostly a joke, but also to really highlight some games some people may have never stumbled across if it weren't for videos like mine. Also to hopefully find some real hidden gems, and above all, to give some game devs real constructive criticism. I've played well over 1,000 video games, and some at a semi-professional level. That's not to say my opinions on video games are gospel, but after tens of thousands of hours of playing them, I would like to think I have some merit in reviewing games. If you want your game to be featured in a video like this with constructive criticism, then send in your games to my email. I will not click on external links though. Steam codes are the only way I'll accept your submissions for now. I'm not trying to get fished again and lose my Steam count again. Anyways, that's all I got. Subscribe or I'm going to delete a random semicolon in your code and you'll have to debug for an hour before finding it.